A memorial service for Charlie Kirk took place Sunday at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Kirk, who co-founded Turning Point USA, was assassinated while speaking at Utah Valley University during his Prove Me Wrong campus tour. His killing sparked an outpouring of support around the globe. To talk about this and other events is our foreign affairs expert, Lisa Daftari. Lisa, the attendees at the memorial service were wowed by Erica Kirk after she forgave her husband's killer. Now, we've got a lot to cover, but let's briefly chat about that before we get into the rest of our questions.
Yeah, I think that was the line that got all the headlines. Obviously, she spoke with such grace and composure. Um, so many people around the world watching and couldn't put themselves in her place and what she's up against and what she's been going through privately and then publicly. So there's just really two levels of her having to deal with this. And in her public stance, not only honoring her husband, what he's accomplished, and honoring his followers, but saying that she will forgive. And she called him a young man, which I thought showed so much compassion and grace for her husband's murderer, and said she had to forgive him because that's what Jesus would do, and that's what her
Right.
husband would do, which I thought was absolutely amazing. And I want to remind people the killer hasn't really asked for her forgiveness, for her to grant it. She is saying that, I mean, in this heated, just aftermath of this horrific moment in her life, and then coming to, this forum and saying publicly that she forgives him, I thought was just such a testament to who she is, who her husband was, what this movement is, and what this movement will continue to be. I think, with her taking the reins and coming out publicly speaking this way, she's saying, let's do this way, let's turn the other cheek, to use another Jesus reference. A lot of people call this, a Christian gathering, or supporting Jesus gathering, or whatever you want to call it. But regardless of what you believe, what your faith is, what your political ideology is, I think what we saw was just a beautiful display of humanity across the board in yesterday's ceremony.
U.S. President Donald Trump was there, and he showed support for Erica when he brought her out on stage. Now, when we saw it, it came across as he was showing himself as a father figure to Erica. Tell us what he said to her and what he delivered in his address.
Yeah, it's obviously very important that Donald Trump and many of his cabinet members were there and they spoke. Many of them having a personal relationship with Charlie Kirk, and others having, minimal relationship with him, but understanding how important this moment is, politically, in terms of our society, in terms of just this moment and what it stands for in terms of bringing some sort of unity to the country. I want to remind people that this funeral, this memorial service, had more attendees than MLK or JFK had
Wow.
in theirs. And that is just, it's an incredible statistic when you think about, a 31-year-old, how much he has accomplished, how symbolic and materially important his movement and his teachings were, that he was able to bring out this many people to fly to Arizona to attend. You just see the footage of just thousands and thousands of people walking at least 2 miles. One of my friends was there, close friends, and she was just keeping me up to date with it.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend. About how, everyone was just so happy to be, not happy to be there in the sense of happy to be at this moment, but very happy to be among people who support him and gave him this proper farewell. And I think, Donald Trump being there really added that level of clout, both, in a human way and also in an official way. With him hugging Erica on stage, I think a lot of media outlets who did cover this showed that picture of her putting her head on his shoulder, or her giving them embracing and having this hug. It was exactly like you said, like a dad figure at this very, very difficult moment. Donald Trump's own kids are even older than Erica and Charlie, and it's really just a moment of support for her personally, and also to say we support you and your movement, and we're going to stand behind this movement. It's true when they say not just in the numbers that this movement is growing, because we know Turning Point USA has gotten thousands, and if I'm not mistaken, over 35,000 applications for new chapters, both at high schools and
Wow.
college. It's just astounding. So yes, both quantifiably, this movement will grow. And also in terms of people really waking up. I think you and I, Naveen, both just as media professionals, have had this kind of wake up call to say, what more can we do to make the world a more united place, make the world a more sane place, to bring the center together, and to have more dialogue, just like Charlie did. And what I'm very happy about, we saw this from Van Jones at CNN, is that there's so many people coming out and saying, I didn't agree with him, but you can't deny the fact that he was a uniter and not a divider.
Hmm.
That he did reach out to Van Jones even in the final weeks of his life, to say, I want you to come on my show, and you're a gentleman, and I want you to have a respectful conversation together. And I think, I'm so happy that Van Jones came out with this, because I think these are the stories that people need to know. In the last week, I've had so many conversations with people who just get their talking points from TikTok, and that's really the only way to put it. And as we know, there's no integrity there, and obviously a lot of misquoting, and mischaracterizing Charlie Kirk and his movement. And for that reason, I'm glad that people are coming forward and saying, no, that's not who he was. And regardless of whether you agreed with him or not, he did not deserve to lose his life. And that's just the bottom line.
Absolutely. Now, Elon Musk was also in attendance. He was seated next to the U.S. president. Cameras caught them shaking hands. Now, this comes following a spectacular breakup between the two figures. When the two came together to honor Charlie Kirk, they exchanged some words. Do you think there could be some possible rekindling of their relationship?
Well, the Tesla stock hopes that they do, because it went up after hours, and we were watching that stock soar as we saw this moment that was captured by the media. Perhaps, I mean, regardless, it was nice to see them kind of have a friendly embrace. It was more than a handshake, and I saw the president take Elon's hand and said something to him. It was something like a thank you, or like it seemed like he was basically kind of burying the hatchet, so to speak, and
Hmm.
having this moment. So perhaps, I mean, look, no one can deny Elon is a smart guy, and he has some great ideas for humanity and to advance humanity, and to advance us technologically as well. And I think he would be an asset to any administration. And I think it would behoove us all to have Elon Musk, kind of chime in on ideas. So we shall see what this means, but it definitely was very much welcomed. I don't think people wanted to take sides in that feud or that rift, but hopefully this does mean, at the very least, they were able to sit next to each other and have a friendly embrace during this very important moment. And we'll see what comes after that.
And what has the FBI said about this assassination? Director Kash Patel has promised a thorough investigation, and obviously there's a suspect in custody, but what else is known as of now?
The FBI is both being very much transparent, but also telling us that they can't tell us what they can't tell us. So basically, they are going through many of these, this one in particular chat site, where a lot of these gamers were posting in real time. And it seems that there may be a larger story here. There is known to be only one suspect, but that story may grow. And the basically what we know right now is that he exchanged these very open texts with his partner, who was a trans a man, born biological man turning to a woman, who was also his roommate. And he very openly, the roommate asks him, "Why did you do it?" He said, "Why did I do it? Because Charlie Kirk is full of hate, and that hate cannot be mended. It seemed very much like, he wanted to put the statement out there. It was a bit unusual, but then instructed the roommate as to how to destroy that evidence, et cetera, et cetera. But now the FBI is telling us that there may be more to the story, and that involves these online forums. And we also know there was an elderly gentleman in the audience who was trying to distract law enforcement while the suspect got away, and that will probably weave into the story somewhere. But what we do hope is that the FBI, as they're giving us updates, will remain transparent in giving us all the details of the case as we need to know it, meaning the public, and we'll take it from there to see, what this real story was and how he was able to carry this out. Naveen, I also was surprised to hear yesterday that there was security surrounding Charlie Kirk, but how incredibly accurate this shot was to first of all only hit Charlie and to get him from that far away. But it was a sophisticated weapon, and unfortunately, he was successful.
Wow. Now, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia on Sunday announced the recognition of the Palestinian state in the hope that a two-state solution will bring peace with Israel, despite protests from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In the midst of a trade war between Canada and the U.S., what does this mean for relations between these two allied countries, and how will Trump respond?
Yeah, well, we're going into the United Nations General Assembly, where nations of the world convene in New York City to talk about these important topics. And the United States position is similar to Israel's position on this, is that a two-state solution will not solve this issue and will only be a gift to Hamas, particularly coming off of October 7th, where it was very obvious that Hamas attacked Israel. Thousands of people were killed, raped, beheaded, put in the oven, you name it, and there are still hostages that are remaining. So it is off color to talk about rewarding, an organization with a state when this is the way that they have handled things or behaved in the last several decades. So that is the United States position. Obviously, Israel has spoken out. The United States has spoken out. It's unusual, really, to see whether it's Canada, the UK, Australia take this position before we have any resolution as to who will lead the Palestinian people. How will we see a future with the Palestinian people that is free of radicalism? How will we bring stability when you want to reward a terror state with an actual sovereign state? They've had Gaza. They've been able to have full rule over Gaza, and what have they done? They've used it as a launch pad to, starve the Gazan people by design, to raise the death toll by design, and then to blame it on Israel. And then the international nations then applaud this and give them a state. So you have to understand why this is not the way. This is just lip service. It makes no sense. My follow-up question to any one of these countries would be to say, how would a Palestinian state work? Who would be at the helm? And how will it bring about long-term stability in the region? And I don't think they can answer any one of those questions and come to the conclusion that a state will do those things.
One more question quickly. President Trump is looking to change the American immigration system regarding visas for skilled tech workers, which is a $100,000 fee. The announcement seems to confuse many immigrant workers. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, look, the details are still unclear because, as with many of the Trump administration policies that come out, they always get really confused in the media, on social media, and people taking it much faster than what's coming out and the information that we have. So they kind of walked it back and said those who are already in the status or have applications filled out, this doesn't apply to them, but those companies who now want to apply for certain visas for immigrants to come through have to pay this fee. Obviously, this is very, very concerning because nobody wants to pay these fees. This is not the way that it has been, but obviously for Donald Trump, the plan is to give improve employment rates here and to have Americans find American workers, to make American workers more skilled, and to really make America great again. Really, he's consistent across the board. So there is more coming out about this. I think the details have not been fully understood, but there is an uproar, whether it's the New York Times or the companies who will have to pay these fees. We're hearing a lot of backlash.
Foreign affairs expert and editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari. Lisa, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.